Well, welcome back. You're still watching Fut Afrique, your hub to all African football conversations. We're talking about the African Football League that is set to run all the way until the 11th of November. Only 8 of the best in the African continent are competing in this prestigious competition. $4 million is on the line, but virtue of being in the quarterfinals, teams are already making money. Brian, let's talk about a sponsorship perspective. Yeah. It doesn't seem that CAF struggled with well, at first there was the concern as to who's going to jump on, but then we've managed once again to attract the attention of the Saudi Arabians.
I mean, it's talking about tourism, in Saudi Arabia, because you remember now the Super Cup was played there as well. Yes. So it's a huge partnership that has come between CAF and the Saudis. Yeah. But the Saudis are pitting, they're trying to get themselves in line for a World Cup at some stage. Absolutely. The only way you can do so is by one, promoting tourism in your country and making sure that everybody understands what Saudi has to offer from a footballing point of view, which is very important. But also the beneficiaries of this whole thing are that you're going to be able to see all the 54 countries on the continent with the youth developmental coming up, whether it be boys and girls. That's going to be able to increase, going to see slightly better stuff coming up. Also important is the fact that you're going to see a lot of teams benefiting with the programs that will come up from this deal of the AFL itself. So it is not just one of those once-off competition that just get paid as an exhibition match, but there's a lot more that comes into it as to how you're going to be able to benefit the continent. Because I want to be able in my lifetime, be able to see an African winning a World Cup.
Absolutely.
In my lifetime. I don't have to wait until a generation will come and say, oh, my dad wanted to see this. Now it's actually happened when he's no longer around to see it. It's got to be able to happen. We've got to be able to see it now.
And many people are asking as to how those structures are going to come up just by having Saudi jump on, right? Yeah. And it's the decision that CAF has taken to say that part of the money that we're getting from the sponsorship, we are actually going to use it to develop into women's football, youth development football on the African continent and so forth. That is a plus for the African continent having the Saudis on. When it comes to Visit Saudi Arabia as the title sponsor, how do they benefit from it? You've already spoken about the tourism element, but also how more? Is it enough to just have them branding the stadiums?
If you look at that, I mean, if you look at sponsorship, or people are running to get into the biggest teams on their jerseys, because every time people see that name, they're able to understand why. And people start wanting to understand and be able to travel to the place and see the place. 100%. So eventually it becomes a situation to say, we are able to host the best, be able to bring the best people around, so we can be able to welcome the world when we decide to go for the World Cup. Yeah. So you don't just wake up and say, I want to host the World Cup. You get up and say, let me just get people to start come through and understand where we are.
It's like a party, right?
It is indeed.
You plan it.
You put it in phases before you eventually get there. Like, for example, now, Morocco became very popular for hosting all the major events. It is not default they're going to be hosting a World Cup.
Absolutely.
So you start placing yourself in a good position for everybody to start saying, every time they speak, it's like, oh, Saudi. Yeah. Saudi. Yeah. Saudi. When it comes to the voting, when you walk into the ballot, you have to cast, you're thinking,
it's obvious.
I love this country.
Saudi. Let's go to Saudi.
Let's go to Saudi.
Well, Visit Saudi, I think it's a place that I personally also want to go to because CAF is having a very good relationship with them. But let's talk about the action that has already kicked off. Obviously, Tanzania with the opening ceremony, that for them did wonders. But we have Petro de Luanda, a team that is all the way from Angola in Kosafa region. And we have Mamelodi Sundowns. They played their game today. I think it's very interesting to look at these two sides. Petro de Luanda serving a 2-year suspension in their local league. Why are they suspended? And also, how do you feel by them not participating in their local league, but here they are in the African Football League representing their country?
The statement that came from Petro de Luanda, ones that came out from the Angolan Football Federation, was that they're not going to bother about that. They'll continue and go about their business because they've done nothing wrong. It was more about match fixing and stuff like that.
So corruption, basically.
Which they've said, we're not interested. It's not, we didn't do it. So do whatever you want to do.
Which is why they're happy to serve the suspension.
Yeah, the 2-year suspension is there. But they're actively involved in CAF Champions League anyway. And they're actively involved in competitions that are on continent as well. Yeah. So they're playing against Sundowns. They know Sundowns very well. Sundowns will remember what happened. Yeah. It was Petro and knocked Sundowns in the quarterfinals of the CAF Champions League 2 years ago. So the relationship between the two teams is very close. They know each other very well. Sundowns and limping Sundowns going into this encounter, by the way. They have lost back-to-back in Cup ties.
It hasn't been really good.
It has been tough. But I have to say I feel sorry for them for the wins they lost in particular. Because they had 7 players of theirs in the Bafana camp.
But
and also they had necessarily not available.
Interesting that you say that though, Brian, but this is what we're talking about. Do you have the depth to carry through your fixtures for the year?
I believe they have.
They do, but
I believe
then why is it a problem if certain players are not there because they're in camp?
What the coach was complaining about was that we're playing a game immediately after an international fixture, which is after an international
Which
break.
he says is something that you don't necessarily see.
Because it destabilizes the team, because players are still thinking about national team duties and they eventually come back and they're playing immediately. But those players are not part of the national team, the ones that played.
Yeah.
But he lost out on a lot of those players who actually had in the team. But also you got to think about it. They played on Wednesday, they're traveling. Friday it is going to be match day -1. We're going to be preparing for the game on Saturday. The second leg is coming up on a Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So it is going to be an interesting one to see how they're going to be able to manage this. But the good thing is they've been allowed to have a block, complete block for their match until they come back, which is good for them. They knocked out of the competition.
Okay, so 6 competitions Mamelodi Sundowns has lined up for the year. Quick question. 6 and then 2 already out of, they've got 4 more to go.
Yeah.
Of the 4, obviously, it is quite likely that they'll win the South African Premier League. But which other one do you take?
It's going to be tough.
Do you win the AFL or do you win Champions League?
From bragging right point of view,
Yeah.
back the AFL because it comes and then the Champions League continues afterwards.
Okay.
And they're going to be brave because they don't want to be involved in domestic football, given the fact of being given a time to play in the AFL. So they can concentrate on this, finish this, then move on.
Alrighty. $4 million on the line. Mamelodi Sundowns, do they really need it? No, but everyone wants an extra penny in their pocket. Make sure that you go nowhere. When we come back, we still dissect this modish competition that is really exciting. I don't know, for some reason, I'm starting to like it.